Hello, this is Ashee from Crafting with Ashee, and welcome to this paper crafting tutorial. This is the little box I'm making today. It's in the style of a milk carton. Isn't it cute? And it just says a little something for you, and you can put all sorts of yummy goodies in here, or whatever you want, makeup, jewellery, whatever takes your fancy. And I think it's just super cute. And this features two of the new Incolours. So the cardstock here is Secret Sea, and the pattern paper is Strawberry Slush, and they're the two of the new Incolours that went live beginning of May 2025. So let's make another one. We're going to do the opposite colours. We're going to do Strawberry Slush for the base, and we're going to be using Secret Sea for the pattern paper. Right, so we've got our piece here, and this piece measures 8.5 by 7, and we're going to score at on the long side, on the 8-inch side, 8.5-inch side rather, 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches, and 8 inches. So it's like a 2, 4, 6, 8 box. Now all these measurements will be on the blog post, and you can find the link to that in the description box below. So we're going to do again at 2.5 inches. And then at 5.5 and 6.5. Okay, that's all of your scoring done. So let's move the scoring tool out the way. So now what I'm going to do before I even go any further is I'm going to start to stick down some of my designer series paper, just so I know I get it in the right place. So as I said, we're going to do the opposite as before, and I'm doing things slightly differently. Whereas before I just used my designer series paper, this time I'm going to put a white border around it as well. So I have here 4 pieces of basic white cardstock, and then 4 pieces of designer series paper, and we're going to stick one to the other. As I said, I'm not going to go through all the measurements right now. You will find them on the blog post, so do hop over and have a look. Oopsie daisy. As usual, all our paper is double-sided, so you choose whichever pattern you prefer, but I love these flowers. So there we have that. And you can choose any combination of colours. The other Incolours are Darling Duckling, Timid Tiger, and Cloud Colour. And I could have used a mixture of those as well, but I quite like just seeing what it would look like to reverse what I did my first combination. Okay. And last but not least, this one here. I thought this would just be nice, give it an extra little something and really make this pattern paper pop against the Strawberry Slush. So let's stick this down. We're going to stick this in the centre rectangles. It can only really go in one place. It won't fit anywhere else, which is very useful. Okay. And I already can tell I really like this. I think I'm going to do this again. I like having this white border. It really helps to separate the colours and make them pop. There we go. Last but not least. Right. Not going to do the other ones just yet. We'll see. There's just 2 more to do, but I want to do those later to make sure I get them in exactly the right position, because it's very easy to make a mess sometimes. Put your pattern paper down in the wrong place. Okay, so let's fold on all of our score lines like we normally do. a good burnish. And a bone folder is an invaluable tool in your crafting kit. If you don't have one, I would urge you to get one. But get a proper bone folder. Not all bone folders are born equal, unfortunately. You need a really good one. So there we go. So now with the small little 1/2 inch strip to my right hand side, I'm going to do a little bit of cutting. So I'm going to cut up this first score line to the first score line, and I'm going to cut this little flappy bit off at an angle like that. And I'm going to move up here. I'm going to cut up to the score line. I'm going to cut away this first triangle and this little square. And then I'm going to cut again at a little angle here. So all we're left with is this little flap, like that. Hope that makes sense. Now, still with that to the right, these big squares or rectangles to the bottom, rectangle squares, going to cut up to the score line, along the score line, up to that first score line. And you're going to do the same for them all. Take your time, it can sometimes be difficult to see the score line, especially if your lights are creating shadows. And then all I want to do for each of these pieces here is I'm going to do a little miter cut. That just basically means a little angle cut. Do you see? All I've cut away is that tiny piece like that. I'll show you again. Just a tiny piece. And you're going to do the same for all of these tabs along the bottom. You don't need to be precise. It doesn't have to be exactly the same amount, but you don't want a lot. Okay. There we go. So you've got those little tabs. So I'm going to get rid of these bits before they confuse us, or confuse me. Now along the top here, we're going to work on the top now. You'll see you've got a thin little rectangle and then a chunky one. You're going to cut along, you want to separate these pieces, so you're going to cut along the score line to the second score line. Like that. Like that. And like that. So you've separated these pieces here. Now, when you fold your box together, you always want your seam, what I do, at the back. So if my seam is at the back, these two are going to be flapping up to make my milk bottle case, and these two need to be cut off. So that's how you work out what you want. So with my little, this piece to the right, you're going to cut off just this thin rectangle of the first one and the third one. If you forget which ones it is, I showed you how to figure it out. Okay, so let's put that down like that. Now I've got some of the small designer shoes paper here, and we can either just put a piece down or we can also still mat it. So I think we're going to mat it as well, so I'm going to cut off just a little bit, just so we have something to mat. I want these to be roughly the same width, which they should be. Okay, so I'm going to get a scrap here of basic white. I'm going to do, you can measure this, the measurements are so tiny that I find it easier just to do this by eye than to measure, but you do whatever works for you. Measurements will be on the blog post if you want them. So I'm going to use just this scrap of basic white. I'm just going to create a mat around it. I think I need another scrap, which is be fine here. Not sure that's going to be wide enough. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so I thought I'd hit the record button, but I haven't. So I've actually made the little box already, so I'm going to just talk you through what I did. You would have put glue on the small little rectangle you had here on the right hand side, folded it over and made your box, then folded in your base pieces like this to make your base, and then given a little bit of burning, you know, put your bone folder in here at the top. I'll show you what I made. Then you would put your bone folder in here at the top and give it a good push down here. So you can see here where I've folded in my base, kept everything squared off. So all I did was put one flap down, put a bit of glue, put the next flap down, put the next flap down, and then give it a good burnish. As you can see here, you would have cut off this top little triangle from squares number 1 and number 3. So if you have along here, you'll see you've got 2 sets of rectangles, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So if you're counting from the right, number 1, you'll just take off this top little rectangle, and you'll do the same for number 3. And then of course you cut down to the second score line along each line, and then you're going to fold in your sides here, fold in your flaps at the top, and I'm going to hold this down with a clip. I've just made a little bow from the Secret Sea Designer Series, from the Secret Sea ribbon, to make it look pretty. You could also put some holes in this using your crocodile and feed the ribbon through and make a bow like I did here. Then this is the Encircled with Love stamp set, and I used this one with strawberry slush ink. I stamped this on some basic white. I then cut it out using the 1 3/4 inch punch, and then I cut out from a scrap piece of strawberry slush the 2-inch punch. I put the two together and I popped it on the front here with some dimensionals, and then I used here the Incolours flat pearls as a little embellishment. I will link at the end of this video to other videos where I've made a very similar box using and you'll be able to see there if you need any more information on how to make the box. I'm really sorry that I lost so much of the coverage. I didn't realise until I'd absolutely finished the video what had happened. So I do hope you enjoyed the video still, and you can give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. You'll find all the measurements and all the information you might need to make the box on the blog post, and you can find the link to that in the description box below. So thank you again, and until next time, enjoy being creative. Bye.